Gable solves the mystery, McIntyre learns his fate, and the Summerslam picture gets a little bit clearer. Lots to talk about from this episode of Monday Night Raw. This is About Last Night on Rumble Rewind. Well, hey everybody, thanks for stopping by Rumble Rewind. My name is Brandon. We've got a lot to talk about on this week's episode of Monday Night Raw, and we are going to jump right into it. But first, do me a quick favor, scroll down below this video, hit that like button for me. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and turn on your post notifications so you never miss an upload. We're doing a giveaway at 200 subscribers. We're getting closer and closer. Would love to get that done before SummerSlam. Help us out by just clicking that like button, subscribe, turn on those notifications, share this video with somebody that you know that would also love this content. And hey, leave some comments. Let us know what you think as we discuss these storylines, these matches, these moments. I want to hear from you. Would love to interact with you in the comments, so leave one below as we continue to move forward with the channel. All right, let's dive right into this episode of Monday Night Raw. Of course, we're discussing the top 3 biggest moments, matches, or storylines from the evening. And for me, that will start with the continuation of the Drew McIntyre CM Punk story. As we know, last week, Pierce told Punk to stay home so that he could have a discussion with Drew McIntyre about his suspension and about his future. Now, McIntyre and Pierce would meet in the ring, and Pierce says that we're on the verge of something special with Punk and Drew. He said everyone wants the match, Punk wants the match, the WWE Universe wants the match, and he asked Drew how bad Drew wants the match. Drew says he wants this match more than anything. Pierce says that he needs to leave the emotion, the pettiness, and the irrational, unprofessional behavior behind. Pierce says if Drew can do that, then Pierce is ready to do business. Drew says the only opinion that matters is the WWE Universe, and they definitely want this match. This was a weirdly face moment for Drew, but obviously I think that he's using that as a kind of a manipulation tactic to get Pierce to give him the match. From there, Drew says, "Come on, Pierce, let's make it official." Pierce says there's one thing he needs Drew to do first. Drew says he's willing to do anything. Pierce says all he needs Drew to do is apologize to the referees for what he did at Money in the Bank. Drew asks, "Why would I apologize?" Pierce says he just wants Drew to own his actions. Drew says no, and he blames the refs and Pierce for all of it, for everything that has happened. Drew says Pierce should be the one apologizing, and Pierce says that the suspension will continue. Drew shoves both refs to the ground and moves towards Pierce when Seth Rollins comes in to make the save. Security comes to ringside to remove Drew, who shoves his way through them and leaves the arena. All right, so lots to talk about around this one. First question though, why are we adding Seth Rollins to this rivalry? I know when Punk returned, there was obviously going to be a feud between Seth and Punk, and because of the way things went down at the Royal Rumble, because of Punk's injury, they had the opportunity to change the story a little bit and focus it on Drew McIntyre. It has been absolutely awesome from the start, but now that Seth is in it, it's a little bit odd to me. It's getting a little weird. My first thought, though, is that CM Punk may not be cleared to wrestle at SummerSlam. And if that's the case, they're sliding Seth in there for a potential match with Drew McIntyre if the Punk one won't work out. The other option is they still don't know if Punk is going to be cleared to wrestle, so they've started this story with the referees that could allow them to slide the Seth in as a guest referee at SummerSlam because none of the refs want to work Drew. That would make sense, but basically my best guess here is they're not quite sure what's going to happen with Punk, and they're leaving a lot of options available on the table. Obviously, the other option is a triple threat match with Seth, Punk, and McIntyre, and I really hope that this is not the direction we're going. I'm really not interested in turning this feud into a triple threat. The WWE have struck gold in this feud with Punk and McIntyre, and this thing needs to play out. This thing needs to go on its own. It needs its own build, its own story, and it needs to really continue past SummerSlam, in my opinion. It should continue on past SummerSlam for a little while longer, and then Punk can move on into the feud with Seth Rollins and let that lead into maybe WrestleMania or something like that. But tell me your thoughts. What do you think's going on here? How do you feel about Seth Rollins being in the mix of all this? And what match are you hoping to see at SummerSlam? All right, let's move on and talk about the Judgment Day. Now listen, the Judgment Day was all over this episode of Monday Night Raw. It seemed like after every single segment or match, there was another Judgment Day moment. It started at the very beginning of the show. Rhea Ripley opened the show and she calls out Liv Morgan. Dominic Mysterio, however, would come to the ring and try to smooth things over. After that, Liv would appear on the screen and brag about the current situation. Rhea challenges Liv for SummerSlam, and Liv accepts and says she hopes to see Daddy Dom there too, before waving goodbye. Rhea then spoke to the camera, telling Liv that at SummerSlam she wouldn't simply end the revenge tour and Liv's title run, but she was going to end Liv's career. Rhea would leave the ring, and Dominic would follow her to the back, still trying to get her to talk to him. Backstage, Rhea entered the clubhouse to see a bouquet of black roses, but she still ends up slamming the door in Dom's face. Priest shows up and asks Dominic if he's good, and Dom says it's complicated. Now later, in another backstage segment, we see Priest and Rhea talking in the clubhouse, catching up, laughing together, joking, smiling, and she asks why Carlito was there. I guess she's only been watching the segments with Liv and Dominic Mysterio and not watching Monday Night Raw. I don't know. Maybe she's busy. Dom comes in and asks for a minute, and Priest leaves. Dom says he's been trying to get in touch with Rhea all week, and Rhea asks what about the last 3 months while she's been injured, and she leaves. Later in the night, Priest will be walking through the backstage area when Dominic came to ask him why he didn't warn him about Rhea. Priest said that he tried to warn Dom, but Dom was too busy with Liv. Priest then called out Dom for lying to him multiple times about Liv and about talking to Rhea. Jey Uso showed up and asked if it was true that Rhea was single and ready to mingle. Priest said maybe, Uso said yeet, Dom said no yeet, and Jey said to tell Rhea that he said hi. Then Jey did the yeet motion and walked away. Priest said Dom's been to prison, he can't let people talk to him like that, and he should show Jey Uso and everybody else who Rhea Ripley belongs to. You could see Dominic take that advice and walk away, and then Priest with the mischievous smile, knowing that he's just stirring the pot and creating problems for Dominic. Later backstage, we would see Pierce talking to Jey Uso, telling him that Dominic wanted to face him. Jey said yeet, Pierce said official yeet, and I guess that's how we make things official when we're talking to Jey Uso. That match would take place later in the night. Now in this same segment, Braun Breaker would show up, knowing that Ilya Dragunov and Sami Zayn were facing off for the Intercontinental Championship. Later, Breaker said it was ridiculous that Ilya Dragunov was getting a title shot and threatened to just take everybody out. Pierce threatened him with the same suspension that Drew McIntyre was facing, and he kicked Breaker out of the building. Alright, back to the Judgment Day. Later in the evening, we could see Rhea Ripley in the clubhouse talking to JD McDonough and Finn Balor about the tag team championships. Finn said, look, Liv did help us get the titles, but it's not like that. Rhea says no worries, that Liv was playing her games and it didn't work, and now the tag team titles are back in the Judgment Day. Dom again shows up, and he tells Rhea about the match with Jey. She asks if Dominic is stupid for picking a fight with Uso. Dom says he'll go have the match canceled, and Rhea asks why, is he a coward? Dom says he just wanted to show everyone that she's still his mommy, and she belongs to him. Rhea says, excuse me. Dom tried to backpedal, Rhea walks away. Carlito steps up and said that that was not cool. Later in the night, we would get the match between Jey Uso and Dominic Mysterio, and late in the match, Liv would come down to ringside and pull Dom out of the way of a Jey Uso splash. While Dom was at ringside, Jey would hit him in the back with a drop kick and knock him on to Liv. Liv would roll Dom over and leaned in to kiss him when Rhea's music hit. She chased Liv away from ringside and yelled at Dom to get back in the ring. Uso hit Dom with the spear and an Uso splash to get the win. Uso told Rhea to call him, and she left the arena. Backstage, we get the final Judgment Day segment of the night where Priest told Dominic that was rough losing in front of Rhea. Rhea showed up and said, let's get one thing straight. I'm not yours, you're mine. She gives him a black rose, smirks a little, and walks away. All right, so like I said, a lot of Judgment Day on tonight's episode of Raw. There was a lot of development, and it definitely got to be a little bit too much. So like I said, it seemed like after every segment, after every match, there was more Judgment Day. There were so many segments that I think could have been combined or shortened to make it a little less all Judgment Day all over Monday Night Raw. That said, though, we've only got 2 more Monday Night Raws until SummerSlam, and with Rhea just coming back, they're trying to tell a lot of story in a short period of time. That said, I don't think that this story ends at SummerSlam. I actually don't think that Rhea Ripley is going to win the Women's World Championship back. I think there's a lot more story to tell here. I think one way or the other, we're going to see Dominic Mysterio help Liv retain that title. Whether it's accidental or on purpose, Dominic gets involved and Liv walks out still as champion. Not my official prediction yet, but go ahead and mark that one down because I don't think it's going to change. This story has been really solid and really interesting, And again, there's a lot more story that can be told here. In addition, there aren't really a lot of women at the top of the Raw roster who are ready to compete for the World Championship. So if they can extend this feud out a little bit, that gives WWE some more time to continue to build up someone like Lyra Valkyria or another superstar, maybe even a returning Alexa Bliss, somebody else that can get involved in this story and take it to the next chapter once the Rhea and Liv portion of the story is over. But again, they could stretch this thing out a little further if they really did a good job of writing it and keeping it interesting. In theory, they could stretch this thing out easily to the Royal Rumble, if not all the way to WrestleMania. That seems like a stretch, but it's possible. Tell me your thoughts though. Who do you think is walking out of SummerSlam with the championship? And really, what side of this conflict do you think that Dominic Mysterio is going to land on? Really interested to hear your thoughts on that, so leave them below in the comments. All right, before we get into my highlight of the night, let's talk about a few other things that happened on Monday Night Raw. Now, I didn't include this in the Judgment Day section because it was really removed from the Liv and Dominic Mysterio story, but we would see Priest and Gunther come face-to-face ahead of their match at SummerSlam. Gunther said that Priest is the World Heavyweight Champion. He's been carrying the show on his back, but he has not been living up to the role. Gunther says that he will lift that burden from Priest and offers to save him the embarrassment of getting beat at SummerSlam and allowing Priest to just hand over the championship now. Gunther told Priest that he was going to restore prestige to the World Heavyweight Championship just like he did with the Intercontinental title. He said that Priest and all of these people in the arena would always be street trash. Priest said Gunther lost at WrestleMania and will lose at SummerSlam because he has no heart. Priest said after that, Gunther would have to fight from the bottom, and we'll find out if Gunther was anything more than a boring, privileged scumbag. It looked like a brawl was about to break out, but then Braun Strowman made his entrance for his match with Priest. Priest would pick up the clean win, and Gunther would return to the ring. Gunther hit Priest with a chop, but Priest came back and knocked him down. Gunther got to his feet and hit another chop, but Priest overpowered him again. Gunther retreated while Priest talked trash from the ring. So just a few quick thoughts here. Priest looks really strong. He's standing tall here at the end of the segment, and this may continue until SummerSlam. I think they're building up Priest to look stronger and stronger as we continue to move towards the actual match, but I still, for the most part, think that Gunther is walking out with that World Heavyweight Championship. It is possible that through some craziness or some outside interference, Priest retains at SummerSlam, leading to a rematch where Gunther can win the championship at Bash in Berlin. Later in the night, we would get a match between Sheamus and Bronson Reed that was set up on last week's episode of Raw. If you didn't see that one, catch up right here. I'll tell you all about it. Sheamus would pick up this win over Bronson Reed. After the match, Reed attempted to attack Sheamus again, but Pete Dunne jumped in and made the save. Sheamus, just like last week, tried to shake his hand, tried to celebrate, but Pete Dunne bailed from the ring. Sheamus turned back around to celebrate, and Dunne returned to the ring, attacking Sheamus from behind and allowing Bronson Reed to hit Sheamus with the tsunami while Dunne watched from ringside. So I am excited to see where this story goes. It's cool to see that they're doing something with Pete Dunne while Tyler Bate is out injured, and it makes a lot of sense. There was an interview with him on Raw Talk afterwards where he said that he showed up tonight with receipts, and if everybody wanted to know why he was so angry with Sheamus, then they should ask Sheamus because he knew. So again, interested to see where this story goes. I like the development here. It does make a lot of sense. Pete Dunne feels abandoned by Sheamus, so I'm wondering if we're seeing a full-on heel turn for Dunne, or if it's just I'm mad at you sort of story, and we'll return to the face bruiserweight after it's all over. Next up, let's talk about Sonya Deville and her new faction. We would see an earlier today interview segment with Jackie Redmond where she was talking to Zelina Vega about her ambitions to win the World Championship after Liv and Rhea's story was done. Sonya Deville would show up with Shayna and Zoe and say that the line now goes through them. Zelina challenges Sonya to a match, and Sonya accepts. That match would follow the segment. Sonya picked up a quick win with a distraction from Zoe and some interference from Shayna. After the match, the beatdown would continue, but Lyra Valkyria, Kaden Carter, and Katana Chance would make the save. Later in the night, Kaden Carter and Katana Chance would take on Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark in a tag team match. Baszler and Stark would get the win over the face team, and commentary would sell their dominance. So it looks like we're working really hard to establish the dominance of this Sonya Deville-led faction, and I really hope that Lyra Valkyria doesn't get sucked into what could be a mid-card vortex and kind of take her out of that main event slot that she's been working so hard towards. This looks like it could be a great mid-card story, but with the way that Carter and Chance and Zoe and Shayna have been booked lately, it doesn't really scream main event storyline. Lyra has way more to offer than this, and so I'm hoping that she doesn't get stuck. Let's talk about the main event of the night. Like I said, it was going to be Sami Zayn and Ilya Dragunov for the Intercontinental Championship. Earlier in the night, we saw a backstage moment where Ilya found Sami and said that he didn't help him against Braun Breaker so that he could get this title. Sami, being Sami Zayn, Super Sami, whatever you want to call him, begins to tell Ilya that it was actually Sami that asked Pierce to put this match together. He said he wants to defend his championship against the best, and that is Ilya Dragunov. So again, Sami's just doing the thing where he hypes up his opponent for the match, and I'm just kind of over this character. Like I said though, this match was the main event. This was a short match. There wasn't a ton of time left in the show, but for the few minutes it had, it was getting pretty good. Obviously, because of earlier in the night, the segment with Adam Pearce, we knew that Braun Breaker would show up. He does. He spears everyone, causing the match to end in a no contest, and Raw would end with Braun Breaker standing tall. So it does look like we may be moving towards a triple threat match at SummerSlam, which is fine as long as somebody other than Sami Zayn walks out with the championship. Ilya Dragunov, Braun Breaker, they've both proven themselves to be good champions at carrying that title, and so I do hope we see a new champion at SummerSlam. But tell me your thoughts on all of this, on all of these other moments. What stood out to you? Is there anything that you're looking forward to seeing develop further? All right, let's talk about the highlight of the night for me, and in my opinion, what should have closed the show. It all surrounds the Wyatt Six. Earlier in the night, we saw Pierce talking with some referees in the locker room about a meeting. That would later be part of the Drew McIntyre segment. Chad Gable would interrupt this conversation and tell Pierce that he's figured it out. Uncle Howdy is, in fact, Bo Dallas. I guess he and Rhea Ripley both are too busy to actually watch Raw on a regular basis. He asked what Pierce was going to do, and Pierce said that Dallas was, in fact, in the building and that Gable was welcome to talk to him. Gable said that he was calling Dallas out tonight. Now, later in the backstage area, we would see the Alpha Academy talking amongst themselves, and Maxine said, "He's our friend, we should help him." Assuming that they were talking about him, Gable enters the scene and says it'll be just like old times and they'll have his back. Maxine tells Gable they weren't actually talking about him, just as Xavier Woods enters the scene. Alpha Academy says that they will team with Xavier Woods next week against the Final Testament. Gable kind of loses it and storms off. Now later in the night, we would get a recap of the Wyatt Six kind of invading the Pat McAfee show earlier to deliver the newest VHS tape. After that, we would see the contents of that tape, which included Eric Rowan's interview with presumably Uncle Howdy. Rowan said he used to have a family, then one day he lost a brother, but he said eventually life goes on and you get back to the things that you were doing. He said when he thought he had everything going again, he lost another brother and realized he had no more family. He said he went down a deep well that he couldn't get himself out of and that he didn't even want to get himself out of. But Howdy gave him hope. Rowan said when Howdy reached out his hand, he accepted it because he knew he needed it. Rowan said he now has a purpose, and it is to help others like himself. He closed the segment saying, "We're going to take our broken hearts and make some beautiful art." This was an incredible video with some very obviously real stuff from Rowan. Now later in the night, Chad Gable would come to the ring and call out Bo Dallas. Chad announces to everyone that he solved the mystery and that Uncle Howdy is Bo. He demands that Bo come face him, and Bo walks to the ring. No music, no lights, no fog, just Bo. Before he can get to the ring though, the Creed brothers attack him from behind. Bo laughs as the heel trio beat him down again and again. Bo continues to laugh as they continue to beat him down, and finally Chad gets in his face and screams, "What's so funny?" Bo says, "There you are," and the lights go down and the rest of the group appear at the stage. The Wyatt Six comes to the ring and the heel trio bails quickly. Bo rejoins the group in the middle of the ring, continues to laugh, and they all pose in the ring together, and the Nikki Cross jump scare ends the segment, sending us to commercial. All right, again, this is incredible stuff from the Wyatt Six. I am all in on this story. They continue to show a little bit more and a little bit more of the personal side of it, of why these individuals are coming together, why they are doing what they're doing, and what their ultimate goal is. I'm curious to see as we move forward with these interviews and we get to the likes of Joe Gacy, Dexter Lumis, Nikki Cross, who haven't been as personally connected to Bray, as obviously Bo was and Eric Rowan was, how those interviews will go and if they'll land even in the ballpark of as authentic and as real. That said, this image of the Wyatt Six would have been a way stronger close to the show than the one of Braun Breaker standing over Sami Zayn. Now, being in Ohio, I was hoping for the return of Alexa Bliss, but deep down I think I knew that it wasn't going to happen, especially as we got later and later into the show. There were no teases, there was nothing that pointed towards anything like that, and I think they are saving that one for SummerSlam, but we'll have to see. When Nikki first came out, though, I did think it could have been Alexa, but I quickly realized it wasn't her. I'm guessing that this is leading to a match at SummerSlam. My first guess is we're going to get a 3-on-3 with Loomis, Rowan, and Gacy taking on the members of this new Alpha Academy, Team Gable, whatever we're going to call it. I am curious to see where Ivy Nile lands in all of this. I feel like that is one of the many, many unanswered questions I have about this story. But I have so many questions because there's so many possibilities. There's so many directions that this thing could go, and it constantly keeps me guessing, but I think that's what makes this so compelling. Now, I love seeing Bo tonight, the way that he reacted to the beatdown, his mannerisms, the things that he did to pay tribute to Harper and Bray. It was just so good. Bo's been killing it at this character and in this role, and this just added a whole new layer to that. So I already can't wait till next Monday to see how this story continues to develop. Each and every week, they just continue to make it better and better. But tell me your thoughts in the comments on the Wyatt Six story so far, and what do you think we're going to see at SummerSlam? All right, let's talk about this show overall. Honestly, I felt like this was the tale of two Raws. On the storytelling side, it was very, very good. Everything advanced really, really well. But if you look at the matches, none of the matches stood out as great. The Priest-Strowman match was pretty good, but even still, that one wasn't phenomenal. The others were just squashes or non-consequential. And so for the match side of things, it was really, really lacking. So if I'm grading it on story, I will give it either an 8.5, maybe even up to a 9. But if I'm grading on matches, I would give it about a 5.5 up to maybe a 6. So with that, I'm going to give this show about a 7.5. I might even pull it back a little bit because even the Judgment Day story, I felt like oversaturated Raw and sort of overshadowed it in kind of a less than ideal way. But so I'm going to stick with it though. 7.5 out of 10 for me. The stories are what I'm here for, so I weigh those a little bit more heavily. Even still though, I think NXT and SmackDown will still have a hard time keeping up with Raw this week. They just don't have anything as hot as the stories that Raw has outside of the bloodline on SmackDown. But how would you rate this episode? Tell me in the comments and tell me what was the highlight for you. Well, that is it for today. Thanks again for hanging out with me for a bit on Rumble Rewind. Before you go, don't forget, hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and turn on those post notifications so you never miss an upload. If you know another wrestling fan who you think would enjoy this content, share the video with them. Help us grow our channel. We're trying to get to that first goal of 200 subscribers, and once we do, we're giving away some CM Punk merch. Would love to make that happen before SummerSlam. Help us get there. We really appreciate all those likes, the subscribes, and the comments. We'd love to know your thoughts on all things WWE. Don't forget, tomorrow we're right back here with our NXT reactions and reviews. We'd love to have you join us for that. Tell us your thoughts on NXT. Hey, if you love discussing news and rumors surrounding the WWE, we've got some big ones right here. Click on this video. Let's talk about some potential new championships that could be finding their way to Raw and SmackDown. Again, thanks for hanging out with me today on Rumble Rewind. We'll see you on the next one.